Hey everyone, I hope you're well. This is the story about what if Naruto was detested by Leaf, had a copy bloodline and was trained by Shisui Uchiha. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel and like the video as well. So without any further ado, let's start the what if. Shisui-sensei, Naruto asked curiously as he looked at a paper, not being able to figure out the words. What does this say? Shisui, who was reading a book that would make Jiraiya of the Sannin and Kakashi Hatake proud, glanced over Naruto's shoulder. It means death. Do you know what that means, Naruto? Naruto nodded. When someone stops breathing and goes away. Shisui nodded as he patted Naruto's blonde hair, causing the boy's eye to twitch in annoyance. Yep, now remember. A lot of people are good, and a lot of people are bad. But death should only be a resort we ninja use if it's required, whether it's protecting ourselves, our friends, or just a mission given by the Hokage. You should never kill for fun, that's when you lose your humanity, he said seriously, hoping to imprint this on the young boy's mind for the rest of his life. Shisui-sensei, Naruto began as his once excited features turned grim and sad. Do I have humanity? I mean, the villagers don't think so, what if they're right? Shisui frowned as he set down his book and looked straight into Naruto's eyes. You are a human, Naruto. Don't ever forget that you are of flesh and blood, just like me and everyone else. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, okay? Naruto wiped away the upcoming tears and nodded. Okay, sensei. Kaka-sensei, Naruto began as he watched the gray-haired man read the same pervy book Shisui once read. Why are you always late? It's getting boring waiting for you when I could be training. Kakashi only gave him a closed-eye smile. Well, I was visiting a friend of mine, he said. Naruto shrugged and began muttering. Just because you have a love life doesn't mean that you can just ditch your students, he said, shaking his head. The next day, Naruto decided to follow Kakashi from his house at the designated time to meet up, so he could call the man out in front of his girlfriend and hopefully he'd get an earful. He kept the roofs of the village, watching the man from above as he weaved throughout the streets. Kakashi then walked onto an empty field and looked longingly with his one eye at a stone that had many names on it. I'm sorry, Obito, Rin, sensei, he whispered in self-loathing, something that surprised Naruto. Kakashi was usually always happy or bored, so to see this side of him that was so down and sad. It was wrong. Kakashi Hatake wore a mask physically and mentally as to not disturb other people with his problems. Naruto shook his head. Those who wallowed in their own self-guilt were weak and would sooner or later be trampled upon. The mission is simple, a redhead stated to a small group of 5 other sound ninja, we swoop in and kill the brat. If his teammates interfere, then we kill them too, got it? The 5 shinobi included Dosu, Kin, Zaku, Jirobo, Sakan, and Taiyuya, who was the group leader. Their mission was to kill Naruto Uzumaki. Taiyuya didn't know why, but she didn't necessarily care either. 6 of us seems kinda overkill, Sakan stated as he licked his lips at the thought of spilling blood. Taiyuya shook her head. Orochimaru said that this guy could rival Kakashi Hatake. If he wakes up, it'll take all of us to take him down, and even then it won't be easy. Zaku, one of the actual genin, scoffed. He's just a brat, he can't kill all of us. Jirobo shook his head at the arrogance of the young one, but they emerged from the bushes where a beaten-up Sakura was taking care of a terribly beaten-up Sasuke and Naruto. Who are you? Sakura asked as she held up a kunai, narrowing her green eyes at the group before her. Taiyuya gave a mock bow. Just common ninja of course, she replied sarcastically. And we're here to kill Blondie over there. Just stay out of our way and we won't kill you, Sakura shook her head, denying them easy access. I may look weak, but I've gotten stronger since I've become a genin. She shouted, raising her kunai as she got into a stance, signaling that the fight had begun. Taiyuya let out a small sigh. Fine, we'll do it your way. Jirobo, Zaku, Kin, kill her. The three-sound ninja charged forward, eager grins on their faces, before a flash of green made them all fall onto their asses, dumbfounded as they nursed their jaws. I am the handsome Rock Lee, and I will protect the beautiful Sakura with everything I have. Sakan rolled his eyes. More leaf trash. Fine, I'll take care of him, he said before Dosu stopped him, the bandaged boy peering at Rock Lee curiously. No, I think he surpasses all of us in brute strength and taijutsu, even Jirobo, no offense. But, he held up his arm, revealing an all-metal thing before a blast came from it, hitting Rock Lee straight on, his vision going blurry as his ears had a ringing in them. Tayuya smirked. Good work, Dosu. Now hurry up and kill the freak so we can kill the pink. She patted herself on the back for her little rhyme, but no one else seemed to appreciate it nor notice. Jirobo punched Lee straight in the face, sending him back into a tree where he crashed, making the tree vibrate as a few leaves fell down. Zaku and Kin charged Sakura as they engaged in a completely one-sided fight. Zaku and Kin's teamwork were just too good for Sakura to handle as Kin suddenly caught her by the hair and had a kunai at her throat. This could have been a lot easier, but you stupid leaf Nin always gotta make things difficult, Kin muttered under her breath as a grin came across her face. Your hair is silky, I'm kinda jealous, to be honest, I wish my hair was this good. Sakura gritted her teeth in pain before she took out a kunai and cut her long hair, shortening it to just above her shoulders. She backed away from Kin before stabbing the girl in her calf, causing her to fall to her knees in agony before she whirled around and killed Kin with a quick swipe to her throat, blood spilling out like a waterfall. Kin! Zaku shouted in anger before he began punching Sakura in the face ruthlessly, giving her plenty of hits that would turn to bruises. He then dropped her to the ground as he prepared to give her a killing blow. Zaku, just finish her already, Tayuya said, slightly annoyed. She didn't particularly care for Kin, so it didn't matter that she died, but she was annoyed that Orochimaru would most likely be displeased about this development. Suddenly, a dark, malicious chakra filled with rage and hatred exploded from the tree trunk Sasuke and Naruto resided in, getting everyone's attention. Naruto emerged from the tree, his Sharingan glowing as black marks were spread across his body. No fucking way, Tayuya cursed before she looked at the group. Attack him now while we have the chance. Purple chakra exploded from his body, halting everyone in their tracks as they looked at the blonde with a mix of curiosity and fear. Sakura, Naruto began. Who did this to you? This time, Zaku spoke up. I did, you, tattooed weirdo, what are you gonna do about it? Zaku began smugly but was cut off as a dozen ice needles found themselves deep into his throats, killing him instantly. Who's next? Jirobo charged the blonde as well as Sakan, but in a blur, with a sword made of ice in Naruto's right hand, the two fell to the ground, their heads off and rolling onto the ground, leaving only Dosu and Tayuya left. Son of a bitch, Tayuya muttered before she disappeared, leaving Dosu all by himself. This power, it feels incredible. I feel like I can take on anyone now. Even that snake bastard. I can do anything. His Sharingan eyes turned to Dosu, who was quite literally shaking in his boots. Let's see what I can do to you, okay? His neck twisted as he suddenly appeared behind Dosu, grabbing the teen's arms and pulling them from behind him as he placed a foot on Dosu's back before he began pulling. You seem awfully attached to those arms of yours, Naruto said as a single red slit formed in his Sharingan eyes, the black markings on his skin glowing even more. It'd be a shame, if you were to. He pulled back with all of his strength as the two arms ripped out of their sockets and off of Dosu's body. Lose them. Dosu screamed in agony as the now armless boy laid there, screaming in pain as he withered away. Naruto watched as the teen slowly died from blood loss as he stopped moving. The markings on Naruto receded right back onto a small mark that looked like 3 Sharingan kamas. He then looked at Sakura and gave her a weak smile. Let's go to the center already, okay? Preliminaries. They sucked. It didn't help that Team 7 barely made it in time either, tired and battered, and Sakura was barely able to stand while Sasuke had a concussion. But Naruto had a face of guilt and regret, a sadness that emitted off the boy like heat from a lamp. But Sakura and Sasuke didn't know why. Flashback. The last thing Naruto saw was Orochimaru's fangs inserting his neck before screaming in pain and fainting. He opened his eyes and found himself in a blizzard, ice clinging to his body like flies to a light, and every time he would break it off, more would form. Naruto, a voice spoke from behind the blonde, making his eyes widen as he whirled around, only to see Shisui with blood coming out of his mouth, a sword poking out of his chest as Itachi stood behind him. Why? Shisui-sensei! Naruto shouted, but was literally frozen to the spot he stood, unable to move. I died alone, you let me die alone. He whispered before Itachi quickly took the sword out of Shisui's chest before decapitating the teen in one motion, causing Naruto to scream in agony at the sight of his master dying. You're a monster, a familiar voice stated, causing Naruto to turn around again as he saw Kakashi pinned to a cross, 3 different swords pinning him to the wood. I hate you, you're the reason I died. You lack the power to save me. Itachi appeared on top of the cross Kakashi hung from and slit the masked man's throat, causing blood to spill as blood filled the entire area, melting the ice as Naruto collapsed in the red liquid, tears flowing freely from his bright blue eyes. And they won't be the last, a small, voiceless whisper echoed in Naruto's head as his vision showed Itachi standing over Team 8 and Team 9, their bodies leaking blood as they were deathly still, causing Naruto's breathing to quicken as he began hyperventilating. Then, it showed Konoha burning, men, women, children all dying as multiple Itachis killed them all. Naruto looked away, unable to see his village burning. After the screaming stopped, Naruto opened his eyes and saw his hands and body were covered in blood. They will die because of you. He looked up and saw Sakura's usual bright emerald eyes become a dull green as he saw her head unattached from her body. He let out a scream of pure fear as he crawled backward, trying to escape the sight of Sakura's dead eyes staring at him. He then bumped into something and looked up. Because you are too weak. Itachi shouted as held Sasuke by the throat, squeezing until an audible crack could be heard as Naruto's eyes widened as Sasuke's body collapsed to the ground, dead. Ahag! Naruto screamed in agony as he clutched his chest, his breathing quickening as tears streamed from his eyes, the world around his shattering like glass as he appeared in a room filled with red. You lack hatred, you lack everything you need to defeat me. Itachi stated as he met Naruto's blue eyes, Itachi's Sharingan spinning wildly. You've grown complacent, daring to let yourself be happy for a change, but you will never be happy. The moment you forget your hatred, forget your anger, not only will you lose everything you love. Itachi moved forward, his face right next to Naruto's ear. I will be the one to take them again, you will be left with nothing due to your ignorance. I told you all those years ago to let your rage, anger, and hatred to fester and grow, yet you ignored me. Let me give you a reminder. He stood up as he grabbed Naruto by the throat and lifted him into the air, his Sharingan shifting into its Mangekyo state. In order to let yourself be happy, you must kill me. A fist went right through Naruto's chest, causing him to scream in pain. But at the moment, you are nowhere near my level. Enjoy hell, Naruto. He dropped Naruto on the ground before Naruto saw Itachi begin slaughtering everyone he knew over and over again until it became too much as he suddenly felt a pulse in power come over him. A few markings began crossing his body as he let out a shout of rage before the reality he saw cracked and his eyes opened. Flashback end. To begin the preliminaries, a man named Genma began, 2 names appearing on the screen. We will have Choji Akimichi versus Sasuke Uchiha. The fight was completely one-sided, Sasuke obliterating Choji the entire fight before knocking him out with a developed version of Chidori Scatter, causing lightning to immobilize Choji before the fat boy surrendered. Next, we have Sakura Haruno versus Ino Yamanaka. This fight was equally one-sided as well. Sakura, who had taken her training seriously when she became a genin, dominated Ino easily, making the blonde give up quite easily. Yoroi versus Misumi, Ill Fate. 2 teammates facing each other. In the end, they were equally matched and the author deemed them irrelevant enough to where they knocked each other out. therefore making it a draw and no one moving on because they suck. Next, we have Hinata Hyuga vs Rock Lee. Now this was going to be an interesting fight. Naruto watched as Rock Lee evaded Hinata's gentle fist strike with his amazing speed before he knocked the girl out with a well-placed kick to the temple, knocking her out. It was ironic, the Hyuga heiress, a clan that specialized in taijutsu, lost to a boy who only had taijutsu. Naruto doubted that the Hyuga elders would be pleased with this development. Now, we have Kankuro vs Gaara. Kankuro immediately paled and surrendered quickly, much to his opponent's disdain. Gaara gave Kankuro an even-headed glare that made the boy piss his pants just a little. Tenten vs Temari. This one was funny, in Sasuke's opinion. Temari had just used one simple wind jutsu and knocked Tenten out as the girl under Guy's tutelage fell helplessly on the fan. Hokage-sama, Anko began. We have an uneven amount of people trying to fight. We have 3 people left, Shikamaru Nara, Neji Hyuga, and Naruto Uzumaki. Hiruzen bit the edge of his pipe as he thought for a few seconds before nodding at the idea he came up with. It'd be unfair for a 1v1 against Naruto, team up Neji and Shikamaru and put them against Naruto. Anko's eyes widened, but she nodded before telling Genma. Genma cleared his throat before addressing the crowd of Genin and Jonin. Due to an uneven amount of teams, it will be Shikamaru Nara and Neji Hyuga versus Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto seemed surprised and began walking towards the arena where he met Neji's glare and Shikamaru's rather panicked look. Please, give up now. I don't wish to fight either of you, Naruto said as he willed the curse mark to stay put, it trying to lend Naruto the power it provided at the prospect of the fight. Umph, Neji snorted. Just because you're scared doesn't mean we'll give up out of pity. If you call yourself a ninja, then fight. He shouted proudly. I'm not saying that to protect myself, Naruto whispered as Itachi flashed in his mind. I'm saying it to protect you all from me, and I do want to proceed to the 3rd stage of the exams. So I cannot lose, nor give up. Shikamaru began walking away, intending on giving up right away but was stopped when Asuma, his sensei, spoke up. Shikamaru, if you quit then I'll tell your mother. Shikamaru froze as chills went up his spine before he turned back around. What a drag, Asuma-sensei, Shikamaru muttered. Pulling out the trump card so early. He then turned to Naruto and gave the blonde an apologetic lazy smile. Sorry, Naruto. Looks like we gotta fight. Naruto looked up at the Hokage, who stood higher than the rest as he peered down at the Genin. What are you up to, old man? He asked, his eyes narrowed. You know all too well of my capabilities. Are you questioning me? Hiruzen spoke as he met Naruto's dark blue eyes. Naruto scowled as he took a deep breath. Yes. He shouted. I've been questioning you ever since you turned your back on me. He pointed at the Hokage. You abandoned me to those fucking villagers. You abandoned me when Shisui died and you abandoned me when I was alone for all of those years. The only good thing you did was point out where Sasuke was. Hiruzen narrowed his eyes at the Genin. Fight or be disqualified, boy. I will not allow you to question my decisions, Naruto glared at Hiruzen before he smirked. Fine, that's fine. He said sarcastically as he cracked his neck really quickly. Shikamaru, stick to the side. I know you, we went to the academy together, so I won't kill you. He then glared at Neji, who stood confidently in his fighting stance. But I have no obligations to the Hyuga. He looked at the proctor. You heard the Hokage, I'll fight. Start the match so I can fucking murder this prick. Hiruzen's eyes widened at Naruto's words. He began, whispering under his breath. Have made a terrible miscalculation. Hokage-sama? An Anbu said as he looked at the worried Hokage nervously. Should we stop the fight? Hiruzen, sadly, shook his head. We cannot, it'd show favoritism and as Hokage, I cannot allow that. Genma looked nervously at the Hokage before he began the match. A prodigy Hyuga dies today, how interesting, Naruto began as he suddenly felt himself restricted as Shikamaru held him with his shadow, the Nara already sweating. I can't let you kill him, Naruto. He's our comrade. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the Nara. Don't talk as if you can do anything about it, Shikamaru. Naruto whispered venomously as he began walking, breaking the shadow connection Shikamaru had over him, surprising everyone in the room. Trash like you don't deserve to speak. Neji yelled as he charged Naruto, ready to strike the teen with a quick jab to the heart, but was suddenly stopped when Naruto grabbed the older teen's wrist and broke it just by squeezing. I said I'd kill you. 3 people in this room can stop me right now, one is your sensei, the other is Shikamaru's sensei, and the last is the stupid Hokage. I apologize, but your blood will be the ink I use to write my message to everyone who fucks with Naruto Uzumaki. A sudden punch to the face of the Hyuga sent him flying across the arena, causing him to hit the ground. Naruto felt a familiar warm sensation erupt from his body as he smirked. He opened his eyes as the Byakugan suddenly appeared, shocking everyone in the room except Yugao, Sasuke, Sakura, and Hiruzen. I can see everything now, interesting. How does he have the Byakugan? Kurenai almost yelled in shock. It's like he copied Neji's bloodline. Asuma muttered in return. What the hell is this? He looked at his father, who only looked at the fight stoically. Naruto lifted his hand without even glancing at Shikamaru's direction as he caught the kunai with ease. This is cool as shit, not gonna lie, Naruto said before he sent the kunai straight back to Shikamaru, lightning spreading across the metal before it scraped past Shikamaru's skin, causing a small cut to appear on Shikamaru's cheek. You missed? Shikamaru asked. Naruto shook his head. I did not, he replied before Shikamaru was suddenly enveloped in lightning before he passed out, smoke slowly coming off his body. He'll be fine, he's just unconscious, Naruto spoke to anyone that was worried for the Nara. He then focused on the Hyuga who had stood back up, his own Byakugan glaring at Naruto, blood seeping from his nose and mouth. How dare you get our precious eyes? You are no Hyuga! He shouted. Naruto shrugged. Yep, I'm not. I'm an orphan, no clan over here. He then met Hiruzen's eyes once again. Is what I would have said a couple of months ago. Hiruzen's eyes widened before one word came from his mouth. Kakashi, he muttered, damning the Hotake for revealing such a thing to Naruto. You see, someone forgot to tell me something quite important. I'm from a rather old clan, and I descend by one of the 4 Hokages. Care to take a guess who? Realization dawned upon everyone in the room as Hiruzen cursed aloud this time. That's right, Minato fucking Namikaze. Imagine being his son and not knowing about it, and then finding out about it just 2 days before that person who told you died. It's fucking hilarious, right? He shouted, laughing. I first tried to rationalize it, but then I couldn't. Why was I, the son of the 4th Hokage, treated like fucking trash in the village that he saved? Is it because I hold the Kyuubi? Or perhaps that you wanted to keep my birthright from me? He began laughing like a maniac, disturbing everyone deeply. My name is Naruto Namikaze, you sons of bitches, no more Uzumaki, by mother's maiden name, who was Kushina Uzumaki, just in case you were wondering, one of the remaining survivors of the Uzumaki clan, just so you know. He turned to Sasuke, meeting the Uchiha's shocked eyes. We're not different at all, Sasuke. We're the last of our clans. It sucks, right? He then got serious as he glared at the Hyuga. But this changes nothing. Lightning sparked across the blonde's body as he disappeared from Neji's sight, which was kinda hard because of his Byakugan. Naruto suddenly appeared behind the Hyuga, a Chidori right behind Neji's head, tears streaming down Naruto's face. Please, give up. I don't want to be more of a monster, he whispered. Neji's eyes widened as he rose his hand. I give up. Naruto let out a large sigh as he dropped to his knees, despair taking over as he clutched his shirt, right over his heart, hyperventilating. I had a right to know. They were my family. Kakashi tried to adopt me. I had a family. I wasn't abandoned or left for dead, I should have known. Why didn't I know? Why didn't I know? He shouted as he cried. Sakura and Sasuke immediately hopped over the fence and immediately caught the boy in the hug as he wept into their shoulders. Please, don't leave me. He cried loudly, clutching like a lifeline as everyone looked at the boy with a mix of shock and pity. Please, don't leave me too. Asuma took a long drag from his cigarette as he looked at his father. Reap what you sow, was all he said before walking away. Naruto sat in an open field, the Byakugan active, his eyes closed as ice crystals formed on the ground beneath him, causing the grass that was blowing in the wind to freeze mid-breeze, the pulse on the curse mark that was imprinted upon the side of his neck causing his eyebrows to narrow before the pulsing stopped, and a long and slow sarcastic clap echoed throughout the field. He could see a person, no, two people looking at him. They must have used the Shushin to get there, or else he would have seen them coming. He opened his eyes and saw Orochimaru and the redhead girl from the forest, dubbed Tayuya. He stood up, immediately ready to attack, but was stopped when Orochimaru raised his hands above his head, chuckling slightly. Ku, I'm not here to fight, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said smoothly as Tayuya and him approached slowly, seeing as how Naruto didn't stop glaring at them. I want to make you a proposition, he began, making Naruto's Byakugan enhanced eyes to narrow at the snake Sannin. And what is that? This was good, the boy was actually hearing him out. I doubt you'd have anything to do with seeing as how I killed your groupies, except for her of course. Tayuya shrugged. Because I'm not a complete moron like those guys, the moment I saw the curse mark appear I was out. She explained helpfully, not that Naruto cared in the slightest. What do you want? He asked again, this time a small spark of electricity going across his body, ready to use Godspeed at a moment's notice. Orochimaru chuckled again. An alliance, of course, you see, I want the third Hokage to die, you want the third Hokage to die. I want you to join me so I can increase your training and give you power, and you will be able to kill Itachi in order to satisfy your revenge. He said, grinning like a madman the entire time. We each have what we want, why don't we help each other? I would never betray my village. Naruto shouted angrily as if he were trying to convince himself. Betray your village or your team? Orochimaru spoke as Naruto immediately froze, making Orochimaru's grin to widen. He had hit the head right on the nail. Besides, you'll be able to complete your dream and kill Itachi Uchiha and avenge your sensei, Shisui Uchiha. Naruto felt his teeth lengthen, the Kyuubi's chakra entering his own chakra pool, and anger on the edge of exploding. Don't you dare put my sensei's name in your filthy mouth, Orochimaru. He shouted. You aren't worthy to speak his name. Orochimaru shrugged. Perhaps, but isn't one of your goals surpassing Shisui of the Flash Step? The man who took down entire Anbu squadrons by himself? I can give you that power, the power of the curse mark is only a taste of what is to come if you accept. He hissed seductively, making Naruto falter before the blonde shook his head. No, I don't want revenge anymore. I just want to protect my friends and be happy. Orochimaru frowned as he rose an eyebrow, straightening his posture. You do realize that Itachi is part of a group that is hunting after you, right? He won't hesitate to kill those who get in their way, that includes your silly little village. Suddenly, the picture of Itachi standing over a decapitated Sakura and a Sasuke whose neck was broken flashed in his mind, causing his eyes to widen, the Byakugan deactivating. Don't you want to protect them from that monster? Don't you want the strength to protect Sasuke and Sakura from any threat? Do you want their deaths to be on your hands? Remember, if you were strong enough, you could have saved Kakashi. Naruto's eyes turned into a bright red as a single vertical line crossed through it, his pupils gone. Shut up! He shouted, clutching his head slightly. If you had the power, then you could have saved Kakashi, and if you had power, Orochimaru was behind Naruto now, his mouth right by the blonde's ear. Then you could have saved Shisui, he whispered as Naruto suddenly collapsed to his knees, unable to hold himself up as he saw Kakashi dying in his head over and over again, as well as Shisui, both being impaled by either Zabuza's blade or Shisui's Anbu's sword. If you don't wake up and smell the roses, Orochimaru began, standing in front of the blonde, his green eyes looking down at the blonde. Then soon, you will be powerless to stop your friends from dying, and when Itachi triumphs and stands over their corpses, you will be able to do absolutely nothing to stop him. The vision of Konoha on fire, the bodies of his classmates littering the ground, appeared in Naruto's mind as he let out a scream of pain, slamming his forehead onto the ground, a crack appearing, but Orochimaru only smirked. "Do you want the strength to protect what you love, Naruto-kun?" Orochimaru whispered. Naruto slowly stood up, his eyes holding certain darkness in them. No longer were the Kyuubi eyes in his skull, but his own dark blue. "Yes," he whispered. "Then will you join me?" Naruto paused, but then nodded. Yes, he met Orochimaru's eyes, nothing but pure conviction and pure darkness in them. "I will join you." Orochimaru let out a burst of small laughter as he grabbed Naruto's chin, meeting Naruto's eyes. "Good, but you'll need to prove it to me." Naruto didn't even question it, he only nodded. "What do I need to do?" His tone was almost monotone. Orochimaru grinned as he stood straight up again and called Tayuya over. "Tayuya-chan will go over the plan with you. For now, train up, you'll need it." And with that, the snake Sannin disappeared from view. Naruto looked at Tayuya, who let out a long and tired sigh before she saluted him. "Hey brat, though, I guess I should call you Leader Sama from now on since you joined us." Naruto didn't respond, he only looked at her expectantly. Tayuya looked a little nervous, before clearing her throat. "Okay, so here's what we gotta do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third phase of the Chunin exams," Genma announced, a small smirk on his face as the crowd cheered. "Today, we will not be doing one-on-ones, but instead, a battle royale style of fighting." He looked at a list. "Can I get Sakura Haruno, Shino Aburame, and Temari of the Sand in the arena please?" Temari, Sakura, and Shino appeared in the middle of the large arena, ready looks on their faces. "The last one standing wins," he shouted before he backed up a little bit. "Start!" The third phase of the exams started rather quickly, with Sakura suddenly bouncing back a few yards to gain distance from her opponents as Shino sent his bugs, each divided into two groups, one set going for Temari and the other going for Sakura. Temari brought out her fan and swung it with all her might, sending Shino's bug flying back towards the Aburame and causing him to fly back as well more than a couple of yards, making him hit the wall, unsettling the dust as he was enveloped in a cloud. "Sorry girlie, it's nothing personal, but I'm gonna win," Temari said cockily as she readied her fan. Sakura smiled shyly at her now neck-length hair somewhat blowing from the wind created by Temari. "Ha ha ha," she chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of her neck. I was about to say the same thing. Her green eyes narrowed at the Sand ninja before she shot her arm out, a small spear forming from her chidori, impaling Temari in the leg, causing the dirty blonde to scream in pain, blood crawling down her leg. "Chidori, true spear!" Sakura shouted as the lightning suddenly increased, spreading across Temari's body before her eyes rolled into the back of her skull, unconscious. Sakura was breathing hard, a smile of happiness on her face. She did it, all her hard work paid off. "Hokage Dano," the Kazekage said as he glanced at Hiruzen, who was smoking his pipe. "That was quite the fight, don't you agree?" Hiruzen nodded. "Yes, but sadly, neither Kunoichi are the winners," he said as he nodded to the arena, where Sakura suddenly collapsed, several bugs on her neck that had been sapping her chakra the whole time. Shino emerged from the dust-like smokescreen, his hands in his pockets as a bead of sweat trailed down his forehead. "The winner is Shino Aburame," Genma announced, causing the crowd to cheer wildly. He then glanced at the list again. Now, can Gaara of the Sand, Sasuke Uchiha, Rock Lee, and Naruto Uzumaki come to the arena? All of the genin appeared in the arena, all of the ready except for Naruto or Gaara, looking as if they weren't about to compete. "Begin!" Genma shouted before jumping away again. "Don't hold back, Naruto!" Sasuke shouted, a kunai in hand. "I've been training a lot this past month. Naruto met Sasuke's eyes and gave him a sad smile, as if knowing something that Sasuke did not. "I see," was all Naruto said before he ducked, avoiding Rock Lee, who had flown over the teen's head in an attempt to kick the blonde but had failed. "Yes, this will be a good fight, Naruto-san. I wish you the best of luck," Rock Lee shouted as enthusiastically as ever. Naruto met Rock Lee's determined eyes before nodding. "I will not disrespect a dedicated shinobi such as yourself and hold back, but I ask the same in return." Lee looked up in the stands and saw Guy, his sensei, nod and give him a thumbs up. Lee nodded. "Very well, allow me to take off my weight." Naruto nodded before jumping, performing a few hand seals and blowing a rather large fireball at Gaara, who had just tried to hit him with a tendril of sand. The fireball was blocked but a large hand of sand, but Naruto didn't mean to try and hit the boy with the fire. He had lightning for him later. Sasuke then engaged the sand ninja in a fight, being quite quick on his feet to avoid the sand that attempted to hit him. Naruto landed on the ground softly and turned his attention back on Lee, who had taken off his weights, which were now in huge dents on the ground, making the blonde's eyes to widen slightly. "Good, it seems we can fight seriously this time." Rock Lee only gave Naruto a thumbs up before disappearing from his sight, his speed by far surpassing Naruto's without God speed, but Naruto would not use that for his fight. He respected Lee quite a lot, so he would not use the advantage of jutsu that increased his speed. He activated his Byakugan and saw Lee coming from behind him. He jumped into the air and flung several shurikens at the white-eyed genin, but Lee only caught them with ease, making Naruto smirk. "Should've just dodged," he shouted before he made a single-hand seal as Lee began to get electrocuted, tiny seals on the shurikens spitting out lightning that enveloped the older genin. The chakra from the seals ran out and Lee was still standing. "Color me impressed, Lee," Naruto said as he took out Zabuza's sword. "But you will have to be a bit better than being tough than to beat me." Lee took a deep breath and a swirl of chakra began forming around him, making Naruto look at him with shock. "I thought he couldn't use chakra," Naruto said to himself before Lee's eyes opened, a determined look in them once again. Gate of opening. The chakra grew more intense, surrounding the boy. Gate of healing. Gate of life. Gate of pain. Gate of limit. Lee's skin was now red as multiple veins could be seen on his head as he looked at Naruto before disappearing from view once again, but Naruto could not see him with the Byakugan this time. He felt Lee's fist hit him, causing him to fly across the arena at high speeds, making him hit the arena wall so hard that he made a small dent as he fell to the ground, coughing some blood up. "What the hell was that?" Naruto got out. "I didn't know he was going to use fucking hacks." Lightning sparked across the blonde before he instantly appeared in front of Sasuke, touching the boy's back, not wanting to disturb the Uchiha with his fight against Gaara, knowing that the raven-haired teen would need every ounce of focus to beat Gaara. The warm feeling made Naruto groan as he suddenly grinned, the veins around his eyes increasing as his blue eyes shifted into its Sharingan state. He saw Lee coming right behind him and easily backed up, his speed just barely inferior to Lee's, but now he could see the genin. "Sorry Lee, but I won't be getting hit again." Naruto slammed his fist into Lee's abdomen before he spun and hit Lee in the face with the back of his foot. He then made an electric current go faster around his hand before it began vibrating. He stuck his hand in the ground as it quickly opened up, the cracks reaching Lee almost instantly before the two genin engaged each other in a fight, the crowd not being able to catch up, even making the Kazekage and the Hokage have trouble watching them. "I didn't know the Leaf had such monsters," the Kazekage said in awe. "It's surprising," Hiruzen nodded, looking at Naruto as he did. "Monsters indeed," he said before taking another smoke from his pipe as they continued to watch the fight. Sasuke ducked under a sand bullet as he got closer to Gaara, who narrowed his eyes at the Uchiha, trying his best to crush the annoying Uchiha, his real target in another fight. Sasuke smirked as he clutched his wrist, an advanced form of the Chidori, which he dubbed Rikiri, appeared in his hand. Naruto saw from the corner of his eyes as Sasuke got just a tad bit too close to Gaara with the Rikiri and instantly kneed Lee in the stomach and touched Lee on the back, a small seal appearing before Lee suddenly fell to the ground, unable to move as electricity coursed throughout his entire body. Naruto appeared right beside Sasuke and delivered a quick kick to the Uchiha's temple, knocking him unconscious and sending him flying. Rock Lee and Sasuke Uchiha are unable to continue, Genma announced as he quickly recovered both Leaf Ninja's bodies, making sure to deactivate the seal on Lee's back before touching the boy. Mother has wanted to kill you for a long time, Namikaze. Naruto grinned at the name. Thank you for recognizing my real name, Gaara, some people can't handle it. He said, a bit of spite in his voice as he glanced at Genma, who only chuckled nervously and then glaring at the Hokage, meeting a stoic gaze in return. Dai, Namikaze! Gaara shouted as he sent his son forward, only for Naruto to tap the redhead on the shoulder and slice the boy's forehead, a small scratch appearing on Gaara's forehead, a few droplets of blood coming out of the wound. What is this? Gaara shouted as he touched his forehead, seeing the red liquid that was his blood on his fingertips. Is this my blood? My blood? My blood? He shouted before he began shifting into a partial possession, making Naruto smirk and meet the Kazekage's gaze, getting a nod in return. A few feathers fell from the sky as a genjutsu was suddenly cast upon the whole stadium. The invasion had begun. Naruto, who saw a partially transformed Gaara escape from the village with the help of his siblings, let out a sigh before he quickly went to the infirmary and saw Sasuke sitting up, a bandage wrapped around his head. Sasuke saw Naruto and gave him a mock glare. You didn't have to kick me so hard, he hissed, getting Naruto to smile at him. He'd miss that. Sasuke, the village is under attack, you and Rock Lee are gonna go stop Gaara from escaping. He said frantically, getting Sasuke to suddenly stand up straight as Lee also got up. We must stop them from hurting the innocent. Rock Lee shouted, a single bandage on his cheek. Sasuke looked at Naruto strangely. What are you going to do? Naruto glanced up at the ceiling. I have to go protect Hokage-sama. When I'm done with that I'll come and help you both, okay? Sasuke nodded. Gotcha, I'll see you soon, he said with a small smirk as he rushed out, leaving Naruto alone, his hair shadowing his eyes, a single tear crawling down his face. No, you won't, he whispered before he formed a single hand sign as he appeared next to Orochimaru on top of a roof inside a purple barrier where Hiruzen stood. Naruto, how'd you get in here? Hiruzen asked, obviously shocked how a genin got inside a barrier that even his Anbu couldn't. Naruto leaped away from Orochimaru, a kunai in his hand as he appeared in front of the Hokage, baring his teeth. I can't allow you to kill him, Orochimaru. Orochimaru grinned like a madman. Don't get in my way, he hissed. Hiruzen looked at Naruto with soft eyes. Naruto, I'm sorry. He whispered. I've treated you poorly. Naruto's eyes widened momentarily before they hardened, not that Hiruzen saw. Get out of my way, genin, Orochimaru hissed. Don't make me kill you, Naruto shook his head. You aren't going to kill the old man. He shouted again, Kyuubi's chakra leaking out as lightning appeared across his skin with so much intensity that it practically covered the team. He'd been working on his speed all month for this moment. The only one that will kill the old man. Naruto spun around at the speed that Hiruzen couldn't detect, a kunai in hand as the blade slid across the old man's throat. Will be me. Hiruzen collapsed the ground, clutching his bleeding throat, his jugular sliced in half, a fatal blow. Why? He whispered, questioning Minato's son. Why did you betray the village? You can't betray something that you were never loyal to, trash. Besides, this was a long time coming, Hiruzen's eyes widened. Flashback. I will not allow you to adopt that boy, and that is final. He barked. Am I clear? Kakashi grimaced under the Hokage's stare and nodded. Crystal, he said in between gritted teeth. But the moment he goes ballistic, the very second he decides to cut this village down, it will be your fault because you let him get like that. He whispered venomously. Leave! Hiruzen roared, his pipe now on the ground as he glared freely at Kakashi, who only gave him a mock bow before leaving. Flashback end. I see, was all Hiruzen whispered before the light faded from his eyes, dead. Orochimaru clasped the boy on the shoulder, licking his lips as a grin appeared on his face. Good, now we have to go. Naruto shook his head. No, I have to go beat Gaara first, then I'll go to the meeting point. Orochimaru let out a long sigh but nodded, pinching the bridge of his nose. Very well, feel free to use the curse mark, Naruto nodded. I was planning on it. He then disappeared in a flash of lightning, causing Orochimaru to grin. He's faster than his father. He then made a few hand signs and slammed his hand onto the ground, a large snake appearing, looking at Orochimaru, awaiting orders. Deal with the trash that follows me, don't let any of them live. The snake hissed in agreement as the purple barrier disappeared in an instant as Orochimaru dashed away, not wanting to deal with the pest that was Anbu. Naruto appeared in front of Sasuke, a Chidori in hand as he sliced through the sand that threatened his comrade, glaring at Gaara as markings appeared across his face, a smirk on his face. Naruto! Sasuke said in surprise. That was fast, Naruto nodded. Yes, I finished my mission rather quickly and got here as fast as I could, Sasuke nodded as Rock Lee appeared next to Naruto, breathing rather heavily. I have exhausted myself to the limit, Naruto-san. Our fight has drained me a lot more than I'd like to admit. Lee said enthusiastically. Naruto patted Lee on the shoulder. You both can rest now, I can handle Gaara now. Sasuke was about to protest, but Naruto met his gaze firmly, causing him to stop. Reserve your strength, you will need it for later. Sasuke dealt with his inner struggle for a nanosecond and nodded. If you die I'll kill you, Naruto closed his eyes and grinned, rubbing the back of his neck. The only person who's actually threatened here is your ego. Ass. Bitch, Naruto then plucked Sasuke's forehead, causing his eyes to widen, the action reminding him of Itachi a tad bit too much. Naruto appeared in front of Gaara, his fist was completely red, filled with the Kyuubi's chakra. Snap out of it before I snap your neck. He shouted as he punched Gaara in the face so hard that the redhead was sent flying through several trees before landing on the ground, beaten rather easily. Naruto approached Gaara, kunai in hand as he looked at the Son ninja with pity. How are you so strong? Gaara whispered. Naruto met Gaara's gaze, which was filled with confusement and questions. I sacrifice everything I know to protect those I love, and in return, I gain strength. True strength is gained whenever you have something you love, something or someone you'd give everything you have to protect. That's why I'm strong, Gaara nodded. I see, he whispered. Can I get that strong one day? Naruto nodded. Anyone could, with the right motivations. He answered honestly. Gaara closed his eyes, tears streaming from his face. I understand, thank you, Naruto Namikaze. Suddenly, two figures, which Naruto identified as Kankuro and Temari, Gaara's siblings. Take him and run, and this time don't act so afraid. He just needs love, Naruto whispered. Don't let him become someone like me. They nodded before running off. Naruto smiled sadly as clouds began to cover the bright sky, turning the area gray. He ran towards Sasuke, who was sitting next to Lee, who was talking Sasuke's ears off. Not that Sasuke minded. When he saw Naruto, he perked up. Did you beat him? Naruto nodded. I did, I made him see the light again, too. Sasuke grinned at Naruto. Show off, he stood up, his knees just a tad bit wobbly. Naruto then saw a squadron of Anbu rushing to their position, Yugao leading them, her dark eyes glaring when she got sight of him. They landed a couple of yards away from him, their weapons brandished. Naruto Uzumaki, you are under arrest for the murder of the third Hokage. Yugao shouted angrily. Sasuke looked at Naruto with horror. Naruto would never. Don't you mean Namikaze? I mean, that's my last name. Get it right, Yuzuki. Yugao narrowed her eyes at the teen in front of her. Tell me it isn't true. Tell me it isn't true. Sasuke shouted. Naruto grinned sheepishly. Yep, I killed that bastard. He deserved it. He turned around and began walking. I'll be joining Orochimaru now, see ya, Sasuke. Don't die. You think we'll let you leave? Yugao asked darkly. Naruto let out a burst of laughter that was genuinely filled with amusement. I killed your Hokage, you think a mere squad of Anbu can take me down? He asked rhetorically, his wrist cracking as he twisted it. Please, try. He met Yugao's eyes and his Shiribyakugan spun wildly. Naruto, Sasuke began, shaking uncontrollably. You were my brother. How could you do this to me? To us? We were your family, did we mean nothing to you? Naruto met Sasuke's now fully matured Sharingan, 3 commas and now were in Sasuke's eyes. No, you didn't mean nothing, you were both stepping stools. You see, I desire power, Orochimaru has offered me power, I took it, and in return, I killed that old man. Problems? How could you? Sasuke shouted, outrage evident in his voice. Isn't it obvious? Naruto said darkly as he turned back around. I'm a demon. I wanted to do it. I want power, I want to kill Itachi. I want to go to Orochimaru, I want for you to leave me alone and sit like the pawn you are we done here? Hardly, Yugao stated as she appeared above Naruto, sword in hand as she was ready to slice the teen in half, but missed as Naruto disappeared from view and reappeared right next to her, stabbing her in the spine and wrapping his arm around her throat, a dangerous look in his eyes. I think we are you, dumb whore. Yugao's eyes widened before Naruto twisted suddenly, breaking her neck as she fell to the ground from the tree, landing with a thump on the grass. Senpai! One of the Anbu shouted in rage as they all charged Naruto, only for a burst of lightning to appear in the middle of the group as blood suddenly came out of their throats, blood spraying the area, including Naruto who was now covered in their blood, a twisted smile on his face. Idiots, all of them! He began walking away, only to stop as he heard the sparking of lightning right behind his heart, a reluctant Sasuke behind him, pointing the Chidori at Naruto. Please, don't make me do this, don't turn into another Itachi. Sasuke shouted, tears streaming down his face. Trust me, I won't. He suddenly swept Sasuke's feet from out from under him, grabbing the teen's wrist and holding a kunai to Sasuke's throat. I don't leave loose ends, he whispered darkly, making Sasuke's eyes widen before they narrowed. Do it then, Naruto hesitated, but suddenly dropped Sasuke as he dodged a kick from Lee, who was glaring at the blonde. This is not youthful, Naruto-san. He shouted. Naruto shook his head. You guys aren't worth it, pass this message won't ya? If anyone gets in my way of gaining power, I'll kill them. And with that Lee and Sasuke saw nothing but black as Naruto knocked them out and set them gently against a tree. I'm sorry, Sasuke. He whispered as he turned around and began walking away. Why? He heard a female voice ring out, making him freeze in his footsteps. It was Sakura. Why? She asked again, tears streaming down her face. I don't have to explain myself to a clanless loser like you, Sakura. He whispered venomously, his fist shaking uncontrollably. Just go away before I decide to knock you out too. He shouted, causing the Pinkette to flinch. I thought we had a connection, I thought. Naruto cut her off. That's your problem, Sakura. You thought, that's the problem, you think too much. You just need to actually see instead of thinking what you want to see. I'm leaving, don't die until you get strong enough to kill the current me. And he then disappeared in a flash of lightning, leaving Sakura alone, who then lost all of her strength to stand. Don't leave me, she whispered. Naruto appeared in a flash next to Tayuya, the leaves of the trees blowing from the momentum he carried, startling the red-headed girl a little bit. There was a man with white hair and 2 dots on his forehead there as well, but no Orochimaru. Where is Sensei? He asked. My name is Kimimaro, and Orochimaru-sama is in the village in Rice Country. He held out a large pill. Take this, it'll evolve your curse seal to its level 2 state. Naruto nodded and popped the pill in his mouth and swallowed it before he started sweating. Kimimaro picked him up and placed him in a barrel and closed the lid and put the barrel on his back, coughing a little bit. "Come on Tayuya, we must deliver it Naruto-sama to the village as quickly as possible." Tayuya nodded as they began running towards rice country. Naruto opened his eyes as he found himself stuck in a barrel. Getting a tad bit annoyed, he stretched and the wooden barrel exploded into thousands of little pieces, where Orochimaru sat on a throne-like chair in front of him. "Welcome back from the dead. It took 3 whole weeks for you to reach the second stage of the curse mark due to the Kyuubi's influence." Orochimaru had to change bodies between that time period, frustrating him to no end, but now he could train Naruto and get his future vessel to become optimal. Good, one of Naruto's eyes were completely yellow due to the influence of the curse mark. "Now, when do we start training?" Orochimaru's eyes flickered with amusement as he stood up. "Right now." Naruto, a tall blonde-haired boy with dark blue eyes, dressed in a simple gray tunic with a collar that framed his face with a small zipper going down that led to his collarbone, it currently being zipped up. He had on a pair of black pants with a dark blue cloak wrapped around his waist with a light purple rope, a sword strapped to his lower back. He was currently on top of several rocks that had been put on top of each other. The slightest movement would trigger the small tower of rocks to collapse. "Naruto-sama," Kabuto shouted. "You've been summoned by Orochimaru-sama." Naruto nodded as he rolled forward, falling several feet before landing on his feet, the rocks toppling over behind him. "I'll be there in a minute," he spoke in return. 3 years. It's been 3 years since he's killed the Hokage. 3 years since he betrayed the leaf. 3 years since he betrayed Kakashi's and Shisui's teachings. 3 years away from Sasuke and Sakura. But he would tolerate that pain that threatened to bubble in his chest, shoving it down with all his might and bottling it up. He'd unleash it sooner or later, but not now, not here. He walked into the base, down the winding twists and turns before he saw a sickly-looking Orochimaru looking at him with predatory eyes. "Yes, sensei." Orochimaru gave a low chuckle before it turned into a raspy cough, his hand being stained with blood. He grimaced at the sight of his own blood and wiped it on a rag and met Naruto's dark blue eyes, his light green eyes shining through the darkness of the room. "It's that time," he began. Naruto nodded, his shoulders sagging as he walked a few feet back and got on his knees, bowing his head. "Yes, please, use my body to kill Itachi Uchiha," he began, closing his eyes as he felt no one nearby, making his stoic lips turn upwards just a bit. "Is what you thought I'd say?" Orochimaru's eyes widened as Naruto used one of Sakura's moves. Chidori, True Spear. The spear of lightning had pierced right next to Orochimaru's heart, his eyes holding just a bit of fear in them. Naruto stood up as he walked towards the snake Sannin. "You should have seen this happening, sensei," he began, cocking his head to the side. "I mean, I still have a couple of decades in me. I won't surrender to a pitiful specimen such as yourself. Besides, you couldn't have taught me much more than what you have. I've taken everything from you, and now I will take your life." Such arrogance, Orochimaru cooed as a large face, much bigger than what could possibly have fit inside his body. A large body made of hundreds of white snakes, the whole body being at the very least 15 feet long. "Let me show you true power." "I always knew you were trash," Naruto commented, closing his eyes as Orochimaru's true form rushed him, but his eyes opened suddenly, the veins around his eyes suddenly pouncing out as a Sharingan formed in his eyes as he looked into Orochimaru's eyes, causing the literal snake-like man to stop in his tracks. Calmly, Naruto walked forward and placed a hand on the head of the snake Sannin and his teeth shined in a smirk. "I've read your research, Orochimaru. And now, I believe I'll be absorbing and keeping your power if you don't mind." Orochimaru suddenly glowed a bright strange light before Naruto's hand glowed the same light before Orochimaru disappeared. Naruto faltered a little bit, holding his head a little bit before nodding, sure that it was him still. He walked out the door and saw Kabuto looking at him with surprise. "Which one are you?" Naruto grinned fearfully at the medic, motioning for him to follow him. "Come on, you'll be useful in hunting down that bastard," but we're going to need to track down 3 more people. Kabuto's eyes widened, pushing his glasses further onto his face. Orochimaru-sama? He asked in a skeptical tone. Naruto shook his head. I would not lose to a man who wished to achieve something that only a god could. Instead, I've taken everything from him, including his soul. Orochimaru and I, well, you could say we are one of the same as of now, but I'm holding the reins. You mean you reversed the Tekuhike? Naruto nodded. Amazing, Kabuto whispered breathlessly. To do such a thing against one of the Sannin. Naruto rolled his eyes. Orochimaru knew I was stronger than him a year ago, he hid it well. The moment I mastered the Shiribyakugan was the moment I could beat him. Kabuto accepted Naruto's answer, not wanting to bug the teen who was ready to kill if necessary. Well, who do you have in mind? Karen Uzumaki, a distant relative of mine, Suigetsu Hozuki, one of your experiments, and Yugo of the curse mark, the origin. Kabuto's eyes widened at the last one. Why Yugo? He's unstable and no one could control him since Kimimara's death, not even Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto protested but was silenced by a quick glare from Naruto. His brute strength is reliable and he can deal with the likes of Kisame Hoshigaki along with Suigetsu. He answered. Now be quiet or go back to the base. This will be the only time I'll let you out of my ragtag group alive unless things go sideways. Kabuto rose his hands in the air, surrendering. No, I wish to follow Orochimaru-sama's successor, it is my duty. Hours later, they arrived at the base, where Naruto released Suigetsu, who was trapped in a tank of water. Suigetsu suddenly stood behind Kabuto and Naruto, his fingers pointing out at each of their heads, a grin on his face as he showed his sharp teeth. He was slightly shorter than Naruto with long white hair that reached to the back of his neck, his purple eyes glowing slightly in the darkened room. Why are you two here? He hissed. Orochimaru sent you to end me finally? Orochimaru is dead, Naruto spoke calmly. What makes you sure I won't blast you and run off? Because the moment you can even think of forming a jutsu you'll be dead, Naruto answered calmly again, getting Suigetsu to take a few steps back in surprise. Whoa, you're not playing. Your heartbeat was steady the whole time. Orochimaru's actually dead, huh? Sweet, who was the lucky bastard? Naruto turned around. I killed him earlier today, he tried to take my body, so in return, I took his power and soul. Suigetsu's eyes widened as he looked at Naruto skeptically. A shrimp like you? There's no way, Kabuto spoke up. He is not lying. This is Orochimaru's determined vessel. Before he died, Orochimaru was weak, but Naruto-sama easily beat him. So he was weak, then that means that it was luck. Suigetsu got out, shrugging as a smirk appeared on his face. I don't know what that means for me, but I don't believe in such petty things like luck, Naruto whispered in Suigetsu's ear, behind the boy back to back now. Luck is something that people can't accept responsibility for their own reality. Oh, Suigetsu got out, swallowing the spit in his mouth. So maybe not luck then, what do you want from me? I want you to join my group in order to take down 2 S-rank criminals. Suigetsu shrugged. That's a no from me, I don't do things for free. Besides, I got a hunt to start. I'm grateful for the prison break, but I ain't no follower. Naruto nodded, taking a small scroll from his pocket and unsealing it, revealing Zabuza's old sword. That's fine, I guess I can give this to someone else. Suigetsu's eyes sparkled as he lunged for it, only for Naruto to hold it in the air, his eyebrow shifting up a bit. That's my birthright, give it to me. Suigetsu whined childishly. Only if you agree to come with us. One of the targets is Kisame Hoshigaki, and he has another sword like this one. Suigetsu looked as if he was actually thinking about it, but eagerly nodded as he grabbed the sword from Naruto's hand, wielding it with ease. Good, but just because you got the last shot in on Orochimaru doesn't mean I'll follow your every command. I'll help you take down these 2 S-ranks, but after that, we're through, Suigetsu said with narrowed eyes, still admiring the sword. Agreed, though one of those S-ranks is only for me to kill. You four can get the other. Suigetsu perked up at that. 4. Karen, Naruto began as he turned to the girl. Please stop arguing with the water boy, he said sternly, getting the girl to grin sheepishly as she shut up. Suigetsu, quit fucking with her. Suigetsu rolled his eyes. Whatever, you're not my boss. Yugo glanced at Suigetsu, his red-orange eyes filled with doubt at the light-haired boy. Yes, he is. Yugo charged Naruto, half of his body gray, one of his eyes were yellow, his face breaking into a grin. Naruto, watch out! Karen shouted, but Naruto did no such thing, he just simply met Yugo's murderous gaze, getting him to stop in his place. Die? Yugo whispered, confused. You will calm down, I have no use for tools that cannot control themselves, he said, not even flinching at the sight of the orange-haired man towering over him. Karen and Suigetsu bristled at the word tools, but ignored it for now. I'm sorry, Yugo got out as he reverted back to his calm state. What exactly are we doing? Karen asked in an annoyed tone. Naruto held up his hand, closing his eyes as the veins around his eyes bulged as he opened his eyes, the Byakugan shining brightly. A single mile away, a crow was perched upon a branch, a single Sharingan in one of its eyes. Tied to its foot was a single parchment of paper that was rolled up. His eyes narrowed as he motioned for the team to go forward. We are to distract a man named Kisame Hashigaki, Kabuto answered helpfully. Karen looked at him with bewildered eyes. The tailless beast? The one who murdered the Miss Daimyo? Why? She practically yelled, looking at Naruto for answers, but received none, only silence permeating around the blonde shinobi, his eyes never leaving the crow. He knew it was Itachi, not the crow, but the message. Itachi knew this would happen, and had gotten ready. Hey, come on, stop leaving us hanging, Naruto. Suigetsu protested as he suddenly stopped running. I know we are to fight another Akatsuki member while you fight the other alone, but why? What's the point in picking a fight and gathering all of us to do this? He yelled. Naruto stopped running and turned around, facing the small group of 4, each one having questions except for Kabuto, who was content with following his master's orders. Around a decade or so ago, Itachi Uchiha single-handedly demolished the Uchiha clan except for one, traumatizing one of my old friends, Sasuke Uchiha. One of the people he killed was none other than Shisui Uchiha, my sensei and the closest thing I've ever had for a parent. I was forced to watch that over and over again, and for that, he will pay. He wouldn't tell them about wanting to prevent Itachi from destroying his friends in Konoha, for that would make him look weak. And he could not be weak. So why us? Karen asked. Naruto rolled his eyes. Suigetsu, your ability to turn into water is quite useful, you are also an adept sword user and were the second coming demon of the hidden mist. Karen, your ability to sense chakra from miles upon miles from my Byakugan's ability is impressive and I need you to detect threats, plus, you're a medic. Yugo, when you tap into your almost literal inner demon, you become a true force to be reckoned with. Your brute strength far outmatches mine and you can probably beat Kisame Hashigaki by yourself if you go all out. He then glanced at Kabuto. You only follow me because to you I'm Orochimaru the sequel, Kabuto nodded, a small smile on his face, giving everyone the creeps besides Naruto, knowing the older man quite well. So after this, we're done. That's it? A one-time deal? Yugo asked quietly, making Naruto raise his eyebrow. Any of you are free to stick around me after we're done with this, I just need to do this, and I'm the closest than I've ever been, Naruto whispered as he turned back around and began running. The group followed him, no longer asking questions or speaking, the pure determination radiating off of Naruto silencing them all. Naruto stopped as he hurriedly grabbed the paper off the crow which immediately disappeared and read it, his eyes scanning the scroll. It was either you or Sasuke who would come and fight me, I've always wondered who it'd be, Itachi spoke as he appeared from behind a tree, startling everyone with his presence, instantly getting them on guard. I even considered the option that you two would work together, But I see only you and your ragtag team as come to face me. Naruto shook his head. Only me, you bastard, he growled, his Byakuya Sharingan glaring at the man who he had kindled a hatred since he was 6. The rest is to deal with your fucking shark. Itachi rose an eyebrow and shrugged. It was only a matter of time, I suppose. Meet me 5 miles away from here north. There's an Uchiha hideout there. We will do this final battle there, he said before disappearing in a flock of crows, getting everyone to relax slightly. What did the scroll say? Kabuto asked curiously, getting everyone to nod as well. I am also curious, Yugo spoke, looking at Naruto expectantly. Naruto sighed as he tossed the scroll to Karen, who opened it. It's blank, she spoke in a confused manner. There's nothing on it. Naruto nodded. I fell for the bait. Itachi knew I'd take it too. He's too damn clever, he cursed as he turned north, the battle of his life in that direction. Come on, they were ready to take off, but Karen suddenly froze as she turned in the opposite direction. Naruto! She yelled, getting Naruto to look at her in a confused manner. What? She pointed in the direction she was facing, worry spreading across her face. There are 8 different chakra signatures coming this way rapidly, some are bigger than the others. Naruto cursed as he turned back to the direction of Itachi. It's so close, he spoke softly. Kukuku, a familiar voice spoke up. What will you do now, Naruto-kun? Naruto turned to the voice and saw Orochimaru leaning on a tree, his bright green eyes meeting Naruto's dark blue. Judging by everyone else's reaction, or lack thereof, he was the only one who was able to see him. Genjutsu? He asked, his eyes narrowed. Orochimaru shook his head. Just trapped in your subconscious, you know, the usual. Biding my time to get out, Naruto shook his head. He was seeing things. He didn't see Orochimaru by the tree and sighed. Naruto! He heard a loud shout come from a familiar, yet older voice as his heart dropped. He turned to see 2 new members for Team 7, one of them being the old proctor from the Chunin exams, Genma, and the other he did not know. In front of him stood Sasuke, Sakura, Genma, a weird pale boy with a weirder haircut, Asuma, Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino. Oh, hey guys. He greeted normally. Suigetsu glanced at Naruto. You know these guys? Naruto shrugged. Old village, killed their Hokage when I was 13, was quite a ride, wasn't it, Sasuke? He met the Uchiha's eyes, which were in their Sharingan form, glaring at the blonde. Come back to the village. He shouted. Naruto actually laughed. That's a no from me. Even if I wanted to, I killed the 3rd, they would rather put my head on a pike instead of welcoming me with open arms. He met Asuma's eyes. Isn't that right, Asuma? You brat, he hissed venomously. How dare you just mention the greatest crime of our generation as if it were nothing? Naruto shrugged. Because, it was nothing. Not to me, anyway. He grinned. Remember, I killed the Hokage, betrayed the village, killed my sensei and her Anbu squad. I'm the lowest of the low, right? He asked. Kakashi would be disappointed in you, Asuma spoke. Naruto. Sakura whispered, her eyes also glaring at the boy. You betrayed us, Naruto rolled his eyes. I don't care, good luck. He looked at his team, which were all ready to fight. New plans, hold them off while I fight Itachi. Sasuke glared at Naruto murderously. You think you can just walk away? I don't care if Itachi is close by, you are facing me right here and right now. He practically screamed. Sasuke, Naruto spoke, his own Sharingan activated. Please, shut the hell up. He slowly took the sword out of his scabbard. Naruto, what do we do? Suigetsu shouted. Naruto let out a soft sigh before he glared at the teams sent by Konoha. Cripple, but do not kill. A crippled shinobi lives in agony than in death, he whispered as lightning began to cross his skin. But leave the black-haired one and the pink-haired one to me, I have some old business to take care of. He disappeared in a flash and grabbed both Sakura and Sasuke before disappearing from the view of the others. Capture them alive, we have to interrogate them, Genma ordered as took out a sword, making Suigetsu grin. Yeah, ready Yugo? He asked, brandishing his sword. The man nodded, determined at his skin tone began to change colors. Yes, let's help Naruto out. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura appeared in a small clearing, where Naruto simply ducked under a punch from Sakura, who was glaring at him with her shining emerald eyes. Face punies meant, Naruto. She screamed angrily. You wouldn't understand, he commented as he tripped the pinkette and sprung into the air, spinning as he wrapped his legs around Sasuke's neck and flung him into the ground. Neither of you would. Then make us understand. Sasuke snarled, wiping the dust off of his Uchiha-branded clothing. I didn't have a choice, Naruto spoke in a dead monotone, making Sasuke's Sharingan eyes narrow even further. You had a choice, you just won't admit it. He rushed Naruto, a Chidori in hand. Naruto sighed before he flicked his finger, the electricity disappearing from Sasuke's hand, making the Uchiha look at him with shock before Naruto planted his knee into Sasuke's abdomen before jumping in the air, flipping as he blew a fireball at Sakura, who had tried to punch him again. The pinkette dodged it, the flames singeing her clothing a bit, but otherwise, it wasn't harmful. She made a few hand signs and held her arm up, a quick lightning bolt shooting out of her arm and at Naruto, hitting him in the shoulder at lightning speed. Naruto hissed in pain as he clutched his now badly bleeding shoulder. I can't get a fucking break, can I? He muttered as he met Sasuke's blade with his own, the two clashing rather viciously, both being equals in terms of swordsmanship. Never! Sasuke shouted as he tried to kick Naruto, who blocked it with his shin before twirling and hitting Sasuke in the torso with the blunt end of the blade, making Sasuke grunt in pain before Naruto's hand sparked blue as he suddenly charged forward, intending on hitting the Uchiha's shoulder, but was stopped when Sakura re-engaged him, barely tapping him on the shoulder, but it was enough to send him flying across the plains, dirting his clothing and hair while also giving him a nasty bruise. Sasuke, we have to fight to kill, otherwise we won't win. Sakura spoke loudly, her eyes never leaving Naruto. Sasuke shook his head. Why should we fight to kill when he won't do the same? He just tried to kill you. She tried to reason, but he shook his head, some dirt falling out of his black locks of hair. No, he didn't. He hasn't used Godspeed yet, he's aiming to put us out, not to kill. Sakura's eyes widened at the revelation. That can change. Naruto whispered from behind the two, lighting glittering across his body as he swipes in the air, several ice needles forming in the air and impaling Sakura and Sasuke. What? I thought he could only use 2 at a time. Sasuke shouted in pain. Naruto chuckled as he looked at his fallen teammates. I've grown quite powerful, Sasuke, Sakura. During my training with some experimentation, I realized that I could use ice release again, it was quite useful. I've honed my bloodline down and have perfected lightning jutsu. He bent down, a needle of ice in each hand, neither Sasuke nor Sakura could move. If it helps, I won't kill you. I can't say the same thing for the others though, I don't actually care if they die. Sakura's eyes widened. So you care about us? Why? He shook his head, chuckling as he bent down on his knees to meet both of their eyes. Watching two people you tricked into trusting you is funny, especially when they suffer. He suddenly sent out a burst of killing intent. And I want you both to suffer. The only way that'll ever end is for you to forget about me, so I'd get on that if I were you. He suddenly stabbed them in the neck with the needles in his hand, knocking them unconscious. I'm sorry, he whispered before disappearing in a bolt of lightning. Geez, 2 Jonin and 4 Chunin are hard as hell to beat. Suigetsu cursed as he dodged another one of Shikamaru's shadow attacks. You're telling me? Kabuto shouted in return, fighting Genma with his chakra scalpels. Die! A maddened Yugo shouted as he hit Asuma with a punch to the face, knocking the Sarutobi to the ground. However, Karen stayed back, not having any fighting experience. She'd just be a nuisance to the whole situation. A bolt of lightning appeared in the middle of the fighting, stopping everyone in their tracks as they saw an angry Naruto, lightning dancing across his body furiously, his hair standing straight up as his Byakugan scanned the area. "You all did good, leave the rest to me." And with inhuman speeds, Naruto disappeared and immediately knocked everyone out and stabbed each one with a kunai at the bottom on their spines, hopefully paralyzing them for life. "What the hell?" Suigetsu complained. "I wanted to beat at least one of them." Naruto glanced at a beaten Ino, a slash of a sword across her back, and pointed at her. "You beat her. She doesn't count." Suigetsu shouted. "She was basically fodder." Naruto smirked. "So nothing has changed, how dull," he commented before sitting down. "Kabuto, can you heal me? I wish to be in peak condition to fight Itachi." Kabuto nodded as he rushed to his master. "Of course, Naruto-sama. Just give me a few minutes." Naruto nodded before he heard laughter again. "It seems Kabuto has taken quite the liking to you," Orochimaru purred in Naruto's ear. "He was always so frightful and scared of me that it dulled his personality. I like seeing him grow." Naruto ignored the voice, focusing on the battle to come. "You know, I've come to genuinely enjoy your presence, Naruto. You seem to have everything in order, except for one thing." Once again, Naruto didn't respond. "Just a vision, just a vision, just a vision. You can't beat Itachi Uchiha." Orochimaru basically shouted loudly into Naruto's ear. "He beat me when he was 15, that was 8 years ago. He has only gotten stronger," once again, ignored. "You'll need my help, let me help you, Naruto. I gave you power before, I can give it to you again." "Shut the hell up," Naruto shouted, causing everyone to freeze. He suddenly noticed the awkward glances at him and apologized quickly before standing up, taking off his ruined cloak-like shirt, revealing tone-tanned skin that Karen almost nosebled to. "Come on, we're close. Let's go kill these fuckers," Naruto stated as he went north. The final battle was coming. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this what if and want to see next part of it, comment down below and let me know. Also share this video with your friends. See you in the next video. Peace.